The Modern Warfare 2 beta is out for everybody, and today we're talking about the very best settings to use, and we're starting with the controller settings. For the button layout, I recommend Bumper Jumper Tactical. This allows you to do all the advanced movements, but without a scuff controller or with playing with claw. So your jump and mantle is with the left bumper, and then your crouch or going prone or drop shotting is by clicking in the right analog stick. Those of you that normally run tactical might want to change it up regardless on Modern Warfare 2. Since you might know by now, slide cancelling is no longer a main feature, and jump shotting is more likely going to be the main movement mechanic. Either way, Bumper Jumper Tactical allows you to do all of this still. We also have the option of flipped, where you can change over the triggers and bumpers, so this way you would be shooting with your right bumper and aiming in with your left bumper. The advantage of this is that it is marginally quicker to do so you save a few milliseconds when you aim in and fire. I currently don't have mine enabled because I just can't get used to it yet, but if you are looking for those extra few percentiles, I recommend putting it on. Then I turn off controller vibration. This is a personal choice, so I'll leave it up to you. Then we get to sensitivity. The sensitivity settings are basically the same as Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone as we know it. So whatever you run on there, run on here. I currently run a 6.6, but probably should go higher, but either way, the best setting for you is as high as you can go on here before you start missing your shots. Next up, we've got ADS sensitivity multiplier, which basically means your sensitivity when you're aiming in. The default setting of this is 1, but I recommend putting it down slightly as it helps you hit your shots. 0.8 seems to be the best for me, and it will actually allow you to have your stick sensitivity higher. We also have a sensitivity multiplier breakdown on the Modern Warfare 2 beta, and I recommend leaving them all on default, apart from the third person mode if you actually play that, and again put that down to 0.8. Then as we go through the rest, there's nothing major here until we get to automatic sprint. You want this on automatic tactical sprint as it just gives you the best movement but without hardly any effort. So by enabling this, you just have to move your analog slightly forward and you'll go into an automatic tactical sprint with the weapon up. And then the rest of these settings you can leave default or change to how you want them, they're not too important. But if we do click the right bumper here, we go into the advanced controls for the controller. Target aim assist, obviously you want this on, and the aim assist type doesn't matter too much at the moment. Default seems to be the best for everyone. Aim response curve is very much up to you, and I go with dynamic still, but I did make a whole video explaining what this actually means, and I'll link it in the top right corner now as a card, or down in the description if you do want to see that. Basically, I recommend if you're a new player, leave it on standard. If you're an SMG player who loves getting in people's faces, run dynamic, and if you're a long-range veteran of the game and you like to use long-range weapons, use linear. Then we've got some more ADS sensitivity multipliers, but for some reason it's on a different page to the normal one. Anyway, this is when you're in focus. So we're talking about snipers and those types of optics. I've put mine down to 0.9 here for when I'm sniping, and actually you can use the breakdown per zoom if you wanted to. Then we've got your input dead zone. I recommend putting down your minimum standards down quite a bit. So I think they start on like 0.13 or something, but I've gone straight down to 0.03. Generally, I recommend putting this as low as possible before you start getting stick drift. Then if you do get stick drift, just put it up slightly until it stops. By having this as low as possible, you get the quickest response time from you clicking your analog around to a response on the screen. And on the Modern Warfare 2 beta, different to say Warzone, we also have the trigger dead zones too. So really you want this very low because you want a pretty immediate response from clicking your trigger to actually firing or aiming in. Then everything else on this list I've actually left as default, apart from the parachute auto deploy, even though this will only impact us on the Modern Warfare 2 beta when jumping from a C-130. Okay, next up we're going to go down to graphics, and we've got on-demand texture streaming. You want this on for the very best quality, but if you are getting any lag or bugginess on the game, just turn it off. And the same goes for Warzone when you play on there. Next, we've got the post-processing effects. So things like world motion blur, weapon motion blur, film grain, these make the game look great, but get them off. That's right, get every single one of them off or turn them right down. It just allows you to see a lot clearer on the game. For depth of field, I've also turned this off. Again, it looks kind of cool when it's on, maybe it's good for campaign, but it's just harder to see people. Then we've got Fidelity FX. I've switched this on and gone for a strength of 3, which works quite well for me and my screen and setup and my Xbox Series X. I don't think this is too necessary, so don't worry about it too much. Don't worry about just flicking it off. Because it is multiplayer, thankfully both PC players and console players have an option for field of view. I've absolutely just maxed it out at 120, which might be too much for some people, especially on bigger maps, but you should at least be going for about 100. Anything below that is just not good. And then for third person, I've gone straight up to 90, and I actually think that's best for everyone. Brightness is kind of a personal choice. I've gone with 54. Copy it and you should be able to see just fine. And then that's everything for graphics. Finally, we're going to go to audio, and there's actually not too much on here. The audio mixes are pretty basic compared to what we have on Modern Warfare 2019 and Warzone. We don't actually have too much of a description about them either, but I've gone with headphones because you guessed it, I use headphones. I've also used home theater on here, even with my headphones, and that actually works great too. But generally, I just recommend choosing the audio mix for your actual setup. There's not too many things to cheat the system and hear footsteps easier at the moment. Now, these individual settings might be different for each person because I actually tweak them on my headset, but I have turned the music volume down to 50, and the same for dialogue. Sometimes all these different noises just drown things out and make it harder to hear people running around, the actual important audio cues. So for example, the effects volume, that is the sound of footsteps and things like that, you want that on 100. And then hit marker volume I've just put down very slightly. Subtitles, I like to leave them on actually, because sometimes you get hints of what the enemy are doing by it coming up as subtitles. So they're all the best settings for the Modern Warfare 2 beta. Now if you are interested in the next generation of COD, so Modern Warfare 2, Warzone 2, and Warzone Mobile, make sure you watch this video where we take a look at whether Warzone Mobile can actually rival Warzone 2.